Mr. Eggplant presents...
Is it actually JB?
No. Mine's in my way.
Is it Jeremy?
You got it.
Jeremy Brown?
You got it. Great, nobody cares.
Wait, your last name is...
Hey guys, Tyler here. Thanks for checking out my video. And I had to just add there at the very beginning of the video that I finally got my neck level to 40, so that was really awesome. And I'm really excited that I will be able to use every single Azurite trait in both normal and heroic before I even step foot into the raid, which is super exciting. So as you guys can see here, we are doing a level 9 Tol Dagor. This was just from our last week, as you can see there, on the 14th of January. And we are running with our usual comp of Assassination Rogue. I finally was told what spec he's been playing this entire time. I've got myself on my Marksman Hunter. We have JB on his Resto Druid. We have Cinderai on his tank. Actually, he's not tanking. I take that back. He is a Havoc Demon Hunter. And then we have our Blood Death Knight. So we're just completing this first little pull here. That way we can make our percent no problem. And by the way, I am happy to announce that we almost 2-chest this run. We've been trying to be a little bit more on the ball with our runs. Unfortunately, there's a few points that we do kind of make mistake, and you won't get to hear me rage, but I had one rage-inducing moment in here, so that is what it is. So we are just going ahead and start here on the first boss. Pretty standard. By the way, during this week there was Fortified, there was Sanguine, which unfortunately I walked right into that. That was pretty stupid of me. Once in a while, I even make mistakes too. But I wanted to make sure and turtle that ability. That way I don't take damage from it. And then there's also a Grievous Wounds affix this week. So since this isn't a +10, we don't have to worry about infested or anything like that. So this is pretty much a see how good your healer is week and how good your tank is at not getting stuff stuck in Sanguine. Fun fact though, this was the second +9 Tol Dagor we did in a row. The first one didn't go as quite so well, especially considering we had a tank that was inexperienced using with Sanguine, but we were able to do the second one no problem. So go ahead and continue to get some damage down here on the boss. It's a pretty standard fight. Pretty easy first boss. I am running with a pet, as you guys can see there, for one, to help out with healing since it is a leech pet, but more so it's because I needed to bloodlust. So I don't really lose anything, especially on a fight like this where the pet can pretty much stay right on the boss the entire time. And I am using the details damage meter down there in the right-hand corner of the screen, as you guys can see. I know I had some people wanting me to make sure and use details over Recount or Scada, so I did that. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I did use it in my live raid this last Tuesday, and if you guys are watching and you would ever like to watch one of my live raids, I do have those on Tuesdays, at least for now, at 5 o'clock Central Standard Time, 6 o'clock Eastern, and I raid with my guild, Draexit, a horde guild on Zangarmarsh. So get these dang parasites out of here, and we'll move up into Tol Dagor itself. I always make sure and dismiss my pet as soon as I'm done with it, because you know we don't need it. And the one nice thing is that since we are running with a rogue, we have a lot of cut cheat routes, so to speak.
Let me know when you're...
So make sure and CC this Sewer Vice Jaw, pull a thug into the next room. I know, just remembering this run, I did have some problems with wanting to just stand there and attack, like right here, where I thought we were just going to kill him there. So that was basically on me, just not being in the right place at the right time. But overall, I felt like this was a really good run. We had some good pulls, we had some not so good pulls, but overall, this is a group that we've only probably run 10 or 15 Mythic Pluses. And plus, other than JB, which is otherwise known as Morphasis, our healer, they play once a week. So they've been doing some really good things, doing really good job gearing-wise. In fact, they've almost passed me in gear. Because they keep getting good stuff out of their boxes, like 395 wrists and 395 legs, and I keep getting 380 pieces, but I'm not salty at all. But we are moving through here pretty well so far, and so on the first pull run through, we pulled these pats on the side when we didn't need to. The second go around was much cleaner, much smoother that way. I don't remember. I think we might actually pull them this run too by accident. This was one of the few pulls where we made a few mistakes, but like I said, I post all my Mythic Pluses. I don't post the ones that we time. I don't post the ones that I look really good, that sort of thing. Like, you guys are going to see videos of me making mistakes, and I mean, yep, there's the pull on those, which people weren't paying attention, but like I said, that happens. And we are still able to, we almost two-chested. We not quite, but had we not had a few of these pulls, we probably would have. But that's one of the nice things about my channel, is that I'm not afraid to say, hey, I made a mistake, especially on my guides. So I will always update those. So if something changes, I will be the first to let you guys know and say, hey, yeah, I made a mistake. This is what I'm doing now. That sort of thing. So we want to continue to roll. Yeah, unfortunately, we did just pull another little guy there. But we just wanted to pull as a few as possible and roll our interrupts. Because as you can see, there is sanguine everywhere. Luckily, these guys don't have a ton of health, so if they run through it, we can still easily pop them.
Sorry.
And just like some Canadians telling us sorry there.
So you don't have to make another mistake later.
But I just want to make sure and walk around those as much as possible, except when you obviously have to go through them. And these next coming packs, I should say, you want to make sure and interrupt the bubble that he's going to pop up here in just a second, and the watery dome. There we go. And you'll hear in the commentary, the live video, that I'm always the one who interrupts first, because I have the longest cooldown, other than like if JB was running as a boomkin, of course. My 24-second cooldown is the longest of our group. So I want to make sure and have mine be on cooldown as much as possible to be able to get them at a later date. Or I should say a later pull. And unfortunately, I got myself caught there. I didn't foresee that sanguine pool to continue to grow like it did. But I only took a little bit of damage, not too much. So I've got this pull here, and I want to make sure and interrupt the sea speaker, the water dome, like I said. So got that interrupted there. And also, if you guys are watching these and wanting to know about my UI, that sort of thing, it's just the Blizzard standard UI with all my bars moved around to my liking with Bartender. I know I've had a couple of people ask about that. And also, I will be making some weak auras to show my true shot cooldown, how much is left on it, and then also when I have my trick shots up for when I can cleave. Unfortunately, I did get line of sighted there just barely by this arsonist. And this is one of the few other, what we're going to call bad pulls, is that I believe we continue to pull this room when we don't need to. So here comes another arsonist. And then we've got these guys over here. So this is where I'm definitely going to use my true shot. I'm glad I held on to it. And we'll just watch the DPS skyrocket here. Unfortunately, I did just pull that arsonist off the tank. I should have misdirected. I didn't, and that is my fault. That's one of the nicest things that a marksman hunter, or a hunter in general, can do, is misdirect to your tank, because there's a lot of burst damage going out, especially with the way that we are building marksman hunter here on my channel. So going forward, though, for this next week, because I'm going to be probably putting this out on the 16th, which would be about a Wednesday, I believe, that we're going to have, you want to do a plus 10 this week because you're going to get a lot of more Titan Residuum towards one of the new items for the next raid come Tuesday the 22nd. That means all further Azurite pieces will have that extra ring, especially the ones from Mythic Plus that you can purchase from the vendor with Titan Residuum, or the ones that you get from Raid. And this weekend I will post a video on what I perceive is the best in slot for, or I should say, maybe not what's best in slot, what I'm going for. That's the one thing too, is that there's not really a true best in slot anymore. So I'm just gonna say this is the pool of items I'm targeting, and then I will give you why.
Nowhere to go is like the problem. We had Sanguine in the whole hallway behind us, and the Sanguine.
So we are getting closer to getting ready here.
Still in combat. I need mana.
Make sure and mark the one that I am pulling.
Really go first.
I was just making a general comment, Dave.
And unfortunately, as you guys can see here, that guy's a humanoid, and he starts walking towards us because he's almost dead. So unfortunately, we did get these pulled, and then people didn't realize that they were pulled. We are pulling them now. So unfortunately, that did kind of hamper our run just a little bit, as I don't know that we would have pulled these normally, but it happens. And like I said, we rebound quite nicely. I just want to make sure. And so this situation here, if you are a blood elf, because we did have a couple of up there, make sure and you use your arcane torrent to get rid of those dispellable domes should you need to. Same way goes for the got to make sure I not die here. The skeletons in Underrot, you can get rid of all of their shields, as well as some of the ads in Shrine of the Storm. And I usually point that out when I am making a video on said dungeon. And this will be probably one of the last videos that I do bonus ring of Azurite traits, because I feel like our damage is going to be really, really good here in about a week. The way I'm trying to create a new build that's a heavy crit build, that way you can only have to run with 2 Unerring Visions, because the crown that drops off of the 4th boss, I believe he's number 4, please correct me if I'm wrong, the coin boss, he drops the crown that gives you a gem that's basically like a free flask every 1.5 minutes, I think it is, which is a huge DPS increase. For one, I'm going to be trying to coin that if I don't get it to drop off the boss. But then 2, that way you wouldn't have to feel like you would have to run with 3 Unerring Visions. And whenever you are running with a higher crit build, just your DPS will be higher just because there's more chances for you to crit. And unfortunately, I did kind of get in trouble there by starting out of range there. Want to make sure and roll our interrupts on the Howling Fear. Make sure and do not get hit by the flashing daggers. And as you guys can see to our back and to our left here, the sanguine pools, we waited just enough for them to start disappearing. And we're getting ready for Jess to come back through here, and I think he only heals for just a tick, not much at all. So there's the stun as he's going to run through it, and he might heal for like 20k at most. So he is releasing the prisoners here, and then we will pull them all to the end, misdirect them all to the tank, which is, like I said, a really good thing for hunters to be doing. Should definitely do that to help out your group and the obviously the tank, because dead DPS or dead team members can't help you heal, do damage, tank aggro, etc. So we got Bobby coming out here, and this is the thing that I got upset about. So you guys are going to see here in just a second that we're doing some really good damage on the boss, getting ready, because he's going to do the same abilities. Well, I am now stunned. So what you guys are supposed to do as a DPS is do enough damage to him to get me unstunned. Unfortunately, they didn't. And I was a little upset. I won't lie. I don't get upset often at this game, and I was a little frustrated there, but we were able to overcome that, take down Jess, not a problem, and his brother Bobby. Well, I guess we didn't technically take him down, but we did finish off this boss here, and I did get to lust, so it's not like we lost that on a lust either. I was able to lust for them, and we about went the wrong way.
What?
We followed Bobby.
What are you doing,
Dang old
Bobby?
Bobby, man. Maybe Hank Hill was right after all. So we'll move the jailers on up here. You want to make sure and turn the jailers as much as possible and interrupt the handcuff because it is annoying as heck.
I'm silent.
Handcuff, there's a handcuff there.
And of course you want to try to stun the jailer with the riot shield or displace them as you just saw me do. I guess that wasn't me, that was actually JB. I tried to take credit for something he did. Go figure. But like you could use your bursting shot to move him as well, and as soon as they're displaced, then they stop. Yep, and I have aggro, as you can hear them calling out, and I will do my best to use my feign death to make sure and not take things to the face.
Murdoch will have next.
So overall, this was a pretty forgiving run, I think. We especially almost two-chested it because we were running with a rogue. That's just one of those things where rogues are just good. Like, especially, they do good damage, they have good utility, they can move you, instead of doing like death pulls, for example, or using invis pots, you can just go invis as a team, get right through, no problem. They do good damage, like I said, and they can, in this dungeon at least, they can unlock all the cells. You can actually get, your like different buffs and that sort of thing. Don't think we actually did that though this run, just because it does take longer when you do it like that. So make sure and stay out of the sanguine, as I'm having a hard time doing for whatever reason. And you have heard me say, and JB in the commentary of the live video, that I tend to stand too far away sometimes. Marksman Hunter has one of the longest ranges, especially if you're running with a high mastery build, and like I am. And so that's one of my things that I need to work on as a player, to make sure that I'm within range of my healer, to make sure that I am in a good position to where I'm not going to take excess damage, and I can still attack the boss or whatever ad we are fighting.
Yeah, where they stand.
So make sure and drop the misdirect there. And I didn't mention at the beginning of this video, so if you guys have got this far and you're still listening, thank you. We are running with the Unerring Visions build. We are running with 3 Unerring Visions. I have been running that way in Raid and in my Mythic Pluses to get ready for BOD, Battle for Dazar'alor, which drops the 22nd of January. I just wanted to make sure, because that's what I'm going to be running like day 1. Now, if I get a special re-origination array type ability, then obviously I'm going to be ready for that. But until then, I feel like Unerring Visions will give you the most damage, at least in a raid setting. So this is one of the fun pulls, and I believe we get a death out of this pull. Unfortunately, we get that spotter that's over to our left there. What we should have done, myself included, was CC him. I did not, and neither did anybody in our group, and I believe they eventually pull. So he's bringing the flame casters around here, if they want to move here. And I try to interrupt them as we can, just so they're not throwing all that junk on the ground. And there's the spotter was pulled. So now he's going to do the suppression fire there. We're going to make sure and not get hit by it.
Okay, one guy's down there.
Yeah, and unfortunately they just nuked JB. So I am frantically get him up, get him up, get him up. Luckily we did have another B-res in the group. So kudos to running with a blood DK. We were able to overcome the pull just fine. He was in a lot of trouble, but we were doing just fine.
I'm tried.
Yep, one of the guys going down.
Because normally you wouldn't want, obviously you wouldn't want the spotter pulled at the same time. So we've got all of the casters taken down. We just have the spotter left. And as you can see by our timer, we're making some pretty good time so far, to at least chest, of course.
Huh. Huh. You get crit more. That's true. Yeah.
All right, then make sure JB can get some mana here, then we'll head right on into the next room. And also, if you are a DPS and it's a Grievous week, Grievous damage does not make you stop eating. So always make sure and bring extra food to help your healer out. As you can see there, I have my blood Borealis sausages, or Borealis blood sausages, I think is actually what they're called. But they are the new Sanguisil made food. They're actually really good. They give you 85 of your main stat, and then like the Sanguisil feast will act like a normal feast and give you 100 stat. Obviously, you wouldn't want to use those in this setting, probably. But I mean, if you're looking for something to do with your Sanguisil, I'm sure those would sell for a decent amount too, and they're actually really cheap to make. Like, you use you don't use a certain fish, and you just use the oil.
Back in the cannon.
Yep. So get him in the cannon there. Hope he doesn't blow our faces off. And we'll keep them pushed back. I like to use my tar trap. That way they basically never get to us. I think one of them ended up being death gripped at one point. But the ones that are handcuffing over there, I want to make sure and interrupt, because even though they're that far away, they still can handcuff you, and you wouldn't want to get caught when the flamecaster, would be shooting something at your feet. Unfortunately, we have a large amount of blood there.
The fact that Grievous doesn't go away after combat.
And the one time I do get beat in the DPS charge is when somebody's in the cannon. I joke, of course. I get beat once in a while. So I'm going to make sure and continue to keep these guys at arm's length away, and continue to use the cannon to our advantage, as it makes quick work of all these. Of course, it does hurt your tank if they are tanking them, that sort of thing. So that's always something you want to be careful of. I don't know if anybody gets hit with it in this run or not. The first run they did for sure. So we've got an officer that's kind of getting through here because he was in the blood, so we made sure and pulled the officer through while the other guy is still continuing on the Marine. We'll do some quick work on the officer and move on to the boss. And that's the easy way to get through. You just go up and over. Doesn't everybody have disengage? I remember saying that in the run. So we've got the third boss here, which some say would be the most annoying in the dungeon. She definitely can be, especially the longer the fight goes, i.e. Tyrannical weeks are not necessarily kind whenever you have to deal with her.
Last one. Yeah.
Nice.
Nice job, JJ. Get some great DPS with that cannon there. So I didn't think that we were going to pull right away there, because I was going to grab some of the barrels and take them out. So we have some I probably shouldn't have dropped that barrel where I did. That was probably a bad spot. But we don't wipe on this boss. It's rather close, though. We want to make sure and dodge her Cinder Flame. And then we've got one little spot over there in the corner. We barely lived, so if everybody can just huddle up here and get through there. And I try to get back to the middle of the room, figure out where she's going to drop the bombs. This is a pretty good spot, so JB there is moving them all to be all in one of the, quote, 4 quadrants, if you want to look at it that way. That way we can all just kind of hang out on the side.
Did I get that last one? No, I didn't. That's okay.
So this is a pretty easy fight for a marksman hunter, I feel, as well. Because, what I should have done right here, I should have grabbed this one that's right in front of me, and I didn't. Oh, I take it back. I did. I forgot. And then I just throw that in the middle and immediately turtle. I should have, if I was going to do that, though, I should have brought it in more, and I didn't. And that was an oversight by me. And unfortunately, Mr. Murdoch there does get killed by the explosion. Come to find out, he had just been talking about how using Shadow Step puts him on the other side of the boss that he's not expecting. I've never played Rogue, so I don't necessarily know what that means too much. I know what Shadow Step does, but I don't know what he meant by having problems with it. Fun fact, though, he does do it again later on the last boss, and he was like, we were like, didn't you say like 2 minutes ago to not do that, and then you did the thing? But luckily, she's down here, and we can continue on.
Yep, she's dead.
So I've got the Grievous stacks there, still stacking up.
Fucking shadow step. It doesn't fucking.
So it'll put you in a different position.
Or it dumps you right where you are.
And that's what he meant by that. So what I should have done here is I should have been helping JB out by eating, as I said earlier. I did it sometimes, and then others I did not.
Am I jumping in the
So we'll
cannon
continue
there?
to push up through here. We're getting really close to the end of this dungeon and the end of the video, and the last boss. Yeah, and he just blew our faces off there. So that was always nice of us. Nice job, JJ. So he found out too that if they get up to the cannon, they can attack you and not the cannon. So unfortunately, this is takes a lot longer to kill pull,
Yep.
because we did have to attack them all because they are too close to the cannon right now, so nobody can actually hit them. And again, I found myself out of position where I should have been coming closer to the group. At least now they are far away, but our tank did just get absolutely nuked.
I just got
Yes, you
blown
did.
the
Yes,
fuck
you
up.
did. So we use this cannon here. I'll put my tar trap there. So with tar trap and knockback, they can never get down. But as JB was trying to say, we should have just went invis, because as you can see with our enemy forces, we had already had 100%. Yep, and that's what he was just saying. Could have two-chested, but I mean, there was still a couple of other issues we had with the run that could have went a little smoother. So we're up here to the Overseer, final boss of Tol Dagor. And actually, one of my favorites now that I'm to the point where I'm a little bit more geared and I have more haste. So as you can see there, I pre-pot and we bring him over here to the corner. I do have my pet out there to Bloodlust.
Standing fit.
Yeah, get in the corner.
And I've got my hunter's mark on there, and I'm just doing my opening rotation, so we make sure and stay away from the explosive bursts. That way, nobody else gets hit with those. Then dodge the cross ignitions as well. And it does go on JB, the Overkill, Deadeye, whatever it's called. I forget. I just saw it, but you know what I mean. What's really nice is if you get that as a hunter, because you can just feign death and then it will immediately drop off and don't have to deal with it.
What was that?
You move too much.
So we got the cross ignition again. Just step forward just a little bit. That way we can't get hit. So Deadeye, there we go. So I will just feign death, and then next thing you know, don't have to worry about it. And the way, this is the way a lot of people do this fight, but I don't have to move at all, hardly, which is really nice. It increases my DPS, of course, especially with a marksman hunter, because if you don't have to move, that's perfect. So I did go ahead and just turtle that one. That way I didn't have to have somebody else soak it. That way they can continue to do DPS or continue to do tank things.
So now I'm like, fuck, I'm gonna get stuck.
You fucking told us not 30 seconds ago.
So he's getting chewed out there now about how he just said he wasn't going to do the shadow step thing, and then that shadow step thing got him killed again. So luckily for me, I did have my cooldown of feign death up again. That's one of the nice things with one of the talents. Lowers the cooldown of feign death by 5 seconds, which was enough to allow me to use it twice. So we are going to just finish this dungeon. We did pretty well. We time it with about six and a half minutes to spare, 6:35 to be exact. So I appreciate you guys watching. I hope you guys enjoyed this. Definitely consider subscribing to my channel if you haven't already. And I have live streams. I have regular World of Warcraft videos. I have other videos of other games that are not necessarily WoW related. I hope that you guys will check that out, and I hope to see you in my kill videos for BOD here in a couple weeks. So, until my next live stream or video, I'll see you guys later.
Nope.
Nope, nope, okay.
Don't we have another piece? Shouldn't we have one more piece?
Yeah, we should be third.
You guys want this fucking
That's-
coat?
Love it. Love it.